This is CBC Here and Now.
It's good to come out and appreciate all the things that they did for us.
I have been coming down every year.
Despite the wind and the rain, hundreds of people still came down to the National War Memorial for Remembrance Day. We have more on that coming up on Here and Now.
I was really surprised that it was that old, because it's really from the age of Cabot, which is in itself quite significant.
A rare find has archaeologists buzzing with excitement. It could be the oldest English coin found in North America, and it was discovered in Cupids. Good evening and welcome to a special half-hour edition of Here and Now as we mark Remembrance Day. I'm Anthony Germain. Well, as you heard Meg say, not even the bad weather could stop hundreds of people from gathering at the National War Memorial in downtown St. John's. It was an opportunity for people to pay their respects in person after having to honor fallen soldiers virtually because of COVID last year. Here Now's Meg Roberts put together this look.
At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
It's good to come out and appreciate all the things that they did for us. And I wouldn't be able to step foot out of my house if they didn't do what they did.
Someone's got to remember, and even after we're all gone, she'll keep it going. So.
In my early years in the regiment, hardly anyone ever came down to Remembrance Day parades. And now I look around and I think, well, this is great. The community is really behind soldiers who have served in.
We remember young children taken from their homes, and we mourn their passing. Bless, O God, this land of Canada, this great land, this troubled land, as we celebrate and remember those who served in many capacities. Bless, O God.
Well, I'm the son of a World War II vet, and I have friends who fought in Afghanistan, and I did this shield years ago, and I've been coming down now. I think this is 12 years. People put their poppies in. So it actually grew and became its own self-growing thing. It's important to remember what my father and all the other people did, including the current people that are veterans from Afghanistan. And it's important to realize and remember what they did and hopefully prevent it. But, humans don't seem to learn that lesson very well.
One more question for you. Are you surprised to see so many people out considering the weather and all that?
Yeah, a little bit. But, it's nothing compared to what the guys that went overseas did. So, it's the least we can do.
People determined to be there. Well, Remembrance Day ceremonies were held all over the province, even though they were a little more scaled back than what people are used to. In Corner Brook, dozens of people showed up to pay their respects. Now, while it was damp in Corner Brook this morning as well, that didn't stop people from showing up at Remembrance Square just outside of City Hall. Many stayed physically distant and they wore masks. As in St. John's, the annual event was scaled back, but the ceremony included a small parade featuring the RNC's mounted unit, and all three levels of government were represented at the ceremony. Well, to the nation's capital now, the annual ceremony in Ottawa this morning as well. The Prime Minister and the Governor-General attended the Remembrance Day ceremony at the other National War Memorial. The event included the traditional wreath-laying and honors for the country's veterans. The ceremony usually draws tens of thousands of spectators, but some pandemic restrictions remain in place, so the crowd's smaller this year, and most people, as you can see, were wearing masks. Now, last year, though, there was an improvement this year. Only 100 people were permitted to attend last year. Now to other news. Tonight, Central Health says the IT outage will continue to impact services until at least Monday. The system remains down due to the ongoing cyber attack. The health authority says their email and phone systems are still affected by this outage, so patients might have difficulty contacting Central Health. They say while they're only proceeding with services that are not directly impacted by the IT service disruption. A number of services have also been cancelled. Now, for a full list of what's going ahead and what isn't, you should check the Central Health website. Well, a silver coin found in Cupids is creating a bit of a stir in archaeology circles, and that's because it's likely the oldest English coin ever found, not just in Canada, but in all of North America. Now, the story's been under wraps until now, as has the coin, but it was dug up at the Cupids plantation a few weeks ago. And here now is Chris O'Neill-Yates was in Cupids today to get this exclusive first peek at the newfound treasure.
Even the driving rain couldn't deter Bill Gilbert from showing the spot where the precious coin was found.
My best guess is that it was lost by one of the colonists when they were building the enclosure wall or building the flanker in the fall of 1610.
Of the 170,000 artifacts uncovered at John Guy's settlement in Cupids, this one is the most thrilling find for Gilbert. One side of the coin bears the likeness of King Henry VII, who ruled England from 1485 until he died in 1509. On the other, the lettering says that the coin was minted in Canterbury, around the same time that Christopher Columbus and John Cabot embarked on their voyages to the New World.
It's probably the oldest English coin ever found in North America.
John Guy and his men landed in Cupids in August of 1610. This site was discovered in 1995. The digging began soon after to unearth the story of Guy's colony and to restore it. After the silver coin was discovered, Gilbert immediately enlisted the former curator of the Bank of Canada Currency Museum to give him an expert opinion.
It's a Henry VII silver half grout, which is a 2-penny or 2-pence piece, and it was minted in Canterbury sometime between 1493 and 1499.
That means the coin was in circulation for more than 100 years before it was lost here on the Guy plantation.
At the time it was minted, it was probably, in England, probably about a half a day's pay. So, not a fortune, but certainly you wouldn't want to lose it, you know.
It's a discovery that sparks the imagination, says Gilbert, when you consider the span of history it encompassed.
The Protestant Reformation, Henry's Protestant Reformation in England, the Armada, James the first coming to the throne in 1603. That coin was in circulation or in England when all those things were going on, all those things were happening, and finally somehow made its way here in the purse or pocket of one of those early colonists and got lost.
Gilbert says the plan is to interpret some of that history before putting it on display here in Cupids, hopefully by next summer. Chris O'Neill-Yates, CBC News, Cupids.
A stretcher that was used in the Second World War is finding a new purpose as a piece of art that honors war veterans. Now, the weathered war stretcher became a canvas for artist Tracy Oates, who painted a scene that pays tribute to the stretcher bearers who risked their lives to rescue soldiers who've been injured in battle. Now, the painting will be part of a planned war memorial in Freshwater to honor veterans from that surrounding area.
I started it in the fall of 2020 and I finished it June or July of this year, 2021. I had done a lot of research for pictures because I wanted to have reference just to give me a visual of how it might look for a scene like that. So I Googled a lot of pictures mostly and read some books, and I read a couple of memoirs from some people who had been in the First World War.
I moved to Nova Scotia in '92. I was in Wentworth Valley at the time going along, and I came across an old farmhouse there and that, and this elderly lady was there, and she had a few old stuff out for a yard sale and stuff. And she had the stretcher leaning up against a tree there. She told me her husband brought it home from the war, so I've had it for years.
He asked if I could paint a scene onto it. So when I had a look at it and seen what it was a stretcher from the war, and I said, it just resonated with me that it had to be a war scene.
To see it depicted there and to know what so little they had to do so much with at that time, and the courage that the stretcher bearers displayed to go over the top after the wounded, bring them back, dead or alive. Well, I have to be honest that I had to walk away. When I finally did return and looked at it again, I said to Dennis and I said to Tracy, you're doing a good thing here. The people are going to talk about this for a while. And the emotions for me ran deep.
There was many times I was painting and I was thinking like, man, like stories this stretcher could probably tell. Like I wonder, you know, how many people were on it, how many, you know, and hopefully some story came out in the painting that it was meant to save lives, and many lives were saved on it.
And I've looked at that stretcher many times over the past year, and to know that 100% it was used in a lot of carries, because it's a good fabric, a good canvas, and it takes a lot to stretch it. It takes a lot of use. And that stretcher got a lot of use. And now it's got a new use.
Well, it is Remembrance Day. We thought it's a good time to sort of take stock of what's going on with the Royal Canadian Legion. And joining me now is the President, Nathan Lair. How does the Legion keep going given the fact that we don't have as many veterans as we used to?
You're right. A lot of our veterans are elderly, but we're starting to get in a lot of new veterans coming in from the past Afghanistan war and that sort of thing. And some people that served are coming in, and it's a newer, younger group in a lot of the branches. But again, like I said, it's a transition.
Right.
And I'm so proud of some of these young folks that are coming in. I accept them with open arms.
So I guess what people might not know, for instance, I mean, I've been covering Remembrance Day for almost 3 decades now, and I remember when there were lots of Second World War veterans, fewer and fewer, Korea, and even with Afghanistan, I guess there aren't as many vets, but now families, for a while the Legion has accepted family members, right? So like my grandfather was in the liberation of Holland, my cousin was there, so tell me about that.
Okay, what happens there is we accept everyone, and most of the folks are related to past uncles, aunts, or grandfathers, like you said. Mm-hmm. So it's very important that we embrace them, because we want the Legion to live on and go on as long as we can possibly keep it going.
Well, Nathan, certainly many generations remember the Legion was a place for families, playing games, those kinds of things, and many university students know there was cheap beer. What about the place of the Legion in the community?
Yeah, the Legion used to be the place to gather after the November 11th, and the old gentlemen there, most of the veterans, they would tell their stories, and we don't have as many as we used to. I can remember when I first started here in Newfoundland, when I came back from the forces, our pavilions, the pavilions at Cornerbrook, Botwood, and St. John's here, we had veterans. We had 30 sometimes. Right now we're down, unfortunately, to maybe 1 or 2 on the West Coast, 1 maybe in Central, and right here in St. John's, I think it's about 16 to some odd. So it's very sad, but you're right. It used to be a jovial place to go, tell stories, war stories, and just listen. And they appreciated that. Right. And a veteran is so proud on November 11th to stand and salute. And like I said, unfortunately this year we can't invite them to the ceremony.
Right, because of the weather today. Well, listen, Nathan, I hope the Legion survives and that more and more people join, and appreciate your time. Thank you.
I have to make one other comment if I be bold.
Yeah.
I am very, very optimistic about the Royal Canadian Legion here in Newfoundland and Labrador. All branches are recovering quite well, and the help we got through the past year, and of course everything was closed down, but now I am impressed, and I'm very optimistic about the whole thing.
All right.
Again, wear your poppy and do your thing. Thank you.
Fairly wet day today across most of the island. We're also looking at the winds picking up tonight, a little bit of a break tomorrow, and then the next weather maker moves in on Saturday. This one's going to bring rain and some milder temperatures. I'll get into those details when I come back. Well, it's a chilly, wet day today thanks to an area of low pressure offshore that is deepening and will continue to do so as we head through the evening hours tonight. We've got that northerly flow leading to some cooler temperatures, certainly up across Labrador this afternoon. Everything that did fall fell as snow, but not nearly cold enough to see that snow across the majority of the island today. Temperatures, this is where we sat. This was the morning temperatures, about 6-7 degrees for eastern areas of the island. And then as you head towards the west, about 2 to 3 degrees. As your daytime highs stay much colder up across Labrador, but those temperatures have since dropped now. So sitting somewhere between 1 to 6 degrees for most of the island as we speak. Now, taking a look at the winds, also going to see those winds gusting as we head through the evening hours tonight, but topped out so far between 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. But if we take a look at the forecast for eastern Newfoundland over the next 12 hours, those numbers are going to jump up. Generally northerly winds, but gusting somewhere between 50 to as much as 80 kilometers per hour. In some cases, some of the exposed areas could see gusts upwards of 90 kilometers per hour. So I kept that on there for you, the winds, just to time that out as we head through the evening hours tonight. Now, as the temperatures drop a little bit more, there is a potential to see some flurries in the mix through central, but anywhere along the coast, even on the west coast, should fall as rain through the night tonight, and eventually that precipitation should end, with the exception of eastern Newfoundland. Likely going to see some showers sticking around. But as that happens, as we get into about midnight or just after, that's when those winds will really start to ramp up. Twillingate through to St. John's, looking at those gusts between 70 to 90 kilometers per hour. Even Gander could see some of those gusts as well. The higher numbers, though, should be in those exposed areas, with some flurries as we get into the morning hours for the west coast. So temperatures tonight, like I said, will be dipping anywhere from 1 to about -2 overnight tonight. Chilly up across Labrador as well. You're going to see your skies clear for the most part, except up around Nain. You're going to see that flurry potential continue. But Lab City cold tonight, going down to -17 under clear skies and calm winds. But it will be a nice start to the day tomorrow. You'll see some sunshine to start, but then some clouds will move in as the day goes on. Fairly quiet day tomorrow as well, but the winds are going to continue along the northeast coast tomorrow, with winds gusting between 40 to 60 kilometers per hour for a good chunk of the afternoon, and even some lingering showers and or flurries still through the day, but overall fairly quiet. Eventually, we're going to start to see the more clouds build into Labrador, and then eventually even some light snow as we get into Friday night, and then continuing through the day on Saturday as our next weather maker moves in. Looks like some snow to start as well for parts of the western areas of the island, as well as central. And then eventually a bigger push of warm air will move in on Saturday, and we're going to see all of that change over to rain, along with some much milder temperatures. So one more day to get through as far as these cooler temperatures go. 1 to 3 degrees for most of the island. Temperatures up across Labrador between 1 and -6 as your daytime highs. And then as we get into Saturday, that's when those temperatures really jump up. So we're looking at between 10 to 12 degrees for the most part for the island. St. John's around 9. Temperatures are going to continue to climb as we head through the overnight, staying on the cold side up across Labrador into the -1 or 1 degree, again with some snow through the day. Continuing into Sunday, temperatures are going to start to drop for the west coast, but hang on to the nicer temperatures, at least in the east, for the first half of the day anyway. St. John's seeing about 14 degrees and may even see some sunshine before the end of the day. Once we get into the beginning of next week, it is looking rainy with temperatures back down into the single digits. Some periods of rain expected through the day on Tuesday, pretty much right across the board. That's our next weather maker moving in. And then for Labrador, generally looking at flurries or light snow continuing right into next week as well, with your temperatures hovering near or just below 0. Had to share this photo. Three Sisters in Bay Roberts. This is actually one of my favorite places to go. Wayne shared that photo with us, and if you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Stay with us. We'll look at Remembrance Day around the world as we mark 100 years, yes, a century of the poppy as the symbol of remembrance.
Newfoundland and Labrador is a place of stories, a place of traditions. But there's one story at the heart of those traditions. That is the story of slavery. I'm Xavier Michael Campbell. I'll tell you about the people whose lives helped build some of the traditions of Newfoundland and Labrador. You'll learn about a little-known history. You'll be surprised by the lasting legacy. On Earth is on Crosstalk, Friday, November 12th on CBC Radio 1.
Well, the pandemic's fourth wave hits Canada's north. Yukon's premier has issued a desperate plea as cases there surge. Now, it comes as the territory remains under a state of emergency due to spiking infection numbers and what the premier calls rampant transmission. Yukon now has more than 150 cases, with most of them in Whitehorse. The new guidelines put in place a mandatory mask mandate along with gathering restrictions.
There is a high risk of COVID-19 exposure throughout the city and increased risk in our rural communities as well. As we work to limit transmission, be sure to mask up wherever you go. And please, I'm begging you, get vaccinated.
Well, returning now to our Remembrance Day coverage. There was part of the 2 minutes of silence held last hour at the Cenotaph on Whitehall, London for Armistice Day. I think we have that, unless I've done something. There we go. The moment of silence at the Cenotaph in Whitehall for Armistice Day. Veterans' loved ones laid wreaths and crosses at the Cenotaph to honor those who died serving in military conflicts. Other ceremonies taking place in the UK at Windsor Castle, at the Scott Monument as well in Edinburgh, as you see there, as well as at the National Memorial Arboretum in Staffordshire. Now, France is also holding Armistice Day commemorations today. That's part of the ceremony in Paris today. President Emmanuel Macron laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier beneath the Arc de Triomphe. He also made a special tribute to veteran Hubert Germain, who was the last serving soldier decorated for his role in the liberation of France from Nazi Germany. He died just last month at the age of 101. His coffin was laid underneath the Arc de Triomphe for that ceremony. And here's some striking video from Sydney, Australia. Images of poppies projected onto the landmark Opera House. This is the 100th anniversary of the poppy as a symbol of remembrance, adopted here and across the Commonwealth back in 1921. The Royal Canadian Legion now distributes about 20 million poppies every year. Well, that's it for Here and Now this evening. We're back tomorrow at our regular time with a full hour program. And as we leave you, here are some highlights from the Remembrance Day ceremony at Ottawa's National War Memorial. Have a good evening.